Morning, folks. Everybody's insane today. I've about gotten in 3 accidents already driving to work. And every single time I drive by them and look at them, like, what the fuck? And it's always some 70 or 80-year-old woman. I don't get it. I don't get it. Did you forget how to drive in the last 30 years? But anyway, it's 9/11, and it's been 18 years since the 9/11 incidents, and man, I still remember, I was working at the same place, but I still just remember getting to work and starting my computer up and stuff, and this dude runs up from the back, one of the sales guys, he still works there, and says, "A plane just hit the World Trade Center. Some plane hit the World Trade Center." And I was like 20 something. What, it's 18 years ago, so I was 26, and I wasn't real hip to New York because I lived in the Midwest. I never really cared a lot about it to the extent that I knew what the World Trade Center even was, so when he said that, I, for some reason, just correlated in my head and thought he was talking about the Sears Tower, which is nowhere near there. But I was just like, how do you hit the fucking World Trade Center? I was like, how do you hit a building like that with a plane, is what I'm thinking. And, I start getting my crap together for the day and looking through my jobs and stuff. And at that time, believe it or not, even though I don't do it anymore, but back then I used to listen to talk radio for the majority of the day because I wear headphones and listen to music and stuff, but back then I didn't really have headphones or any way to listen to music on my computer, so I just had this clock radio, so I would turn it on news radio, that way, it wasn't, any big, disruption to the, sales office that I'm listening to Metallica or Pantera or something, and so I'm listening to the talk radio, and that's when they announced that another plane hit, and I was like, that was when everybody's like, we had a TV in the conference room, and they said we need to turn the TV on, so one of the sales guys went back and turned the TV on, and I got up and went back there and saw the buildings on fire, and stuff, and I watched it for a few minutes and stuff, and they re-showed the second plane hidden because there was no footage of the first plane, and still to this day, as far as I know, there's only the footage of the one guy's footage of the first plane hitting, and it was never broadcast on the day, so they kept showing the second plane hitting, the building's on fire, and then I went back to work and was listening to the radio, and they were talking about things and stuff, and that was when, I think a little bit of time went by, and then they said the Pentagon got hit, and I was like, well, fuck, at this point, everything was up for grabs. It's like, how many planes are going to do this? A dozen? What? It was like, what in the hell's going on? Everybody was just shocked, and so I go back in the back again, looking at some of the Pentagon stuff that they're starting to get on the TV, and I'm still trying to do my job, so I go back and I'm working on things and stuff, and that was when they said that, they were kept cutting back to people live close to the World Trade Centers, and that's when the South Tower fell. And so of course I get up and I go back, and I didn't see it fall live, but they were, you know, showing it, and they showed it multiple times and kept cutting back and forth between the Pentagon and they announced that, you know, they were stopping all planes. All planes were being forced to land. And
breaking news story to tell you about, apparently a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
The building started to buckle.
The first World Trade Tower collapsed.
We now see the collapse of the second building.
I was on the phone with Vice President Cheney. He had informed me about the Pentagon being attacked.
It's just funny because, well, it's not funny, but I happen to be watching the footage, and the buildings, and the North Tower was still up and burning, and I was watching it, but they had showed the other tower falling, you know, on replay multiple times. And so I was watching actually when the North Tower fell. I was actually watching the TV. But in my mind, I was like, well, I thought it was just a replay of the first tower falling, because I didn't know both towers didn't have radio antennas on top of them. I told you, I really didn't know that much about it. So I just thought they were re-showing when it started to fall. I thought they were re-showing the other one, even though I had seen it fall a couple times and it did not have an antenna on it. I just put it together that it was, you know, the South Tower falling again. It didn't dawn on me, and to this day, I mean, it's still, I've watched things on this, and I don't know what my feelings are on the true accounts of what happened or whatnot, you know, and what's right and what's not, because I mean, some things don't make sense from a physics standpoint as how these buildings fell and different things, but I mean, I'm not going to get into that. This is just mainly about all the first responders and everything that rushed in there to help people, and it's just, it breaks my heart every time I watch this stuff, because you do get desensitized to it when you've seen the buildings fall. I've probably seen it hundreds of times, you know, in the 18 years, and it's like you build up like a desensitization, I guess that's a word, to it, you know, but every time you're watching it, you're watching people die. You're watching this towers fall and crumble and people inside every single time. And when the plane hits, you've seen that plane hit, the South plane hit, you know, hundreds of times, and there's people on that plane, you know. I know I've heard all the things like it wasn't really a plane, this, that, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I have an open mind, but I don't have... one of my favorite lines I ever heard was, it's good to have an open mind, but not have one so open that your brain falls out, you know? So, I mean, it's good to look at things objectively, but not get too emotional about it. And so I don't know, you know, everything. And I still don't think everything's been told to us. But, you know, I mean, it's just so sad that it happened and that all this stuff went on. And I just remember the fear in everybody, and when it did dawn on me that I had watched the second tower fall, and then I went back and was just like, I was kind of a little shook up and watching or listening to the radio, and they said that the plane went down. Flight 93 went down, and they thought that some passengers were trying to take the plane back. You know, later on they found this out, and that's what brought it down. And those people are heroes, because I mean, really, you don't. I mean, yeah, they had self-preservation on their minds, but at the same time, it's like that plane could have hit the Capitol building. It could have hit, you know, any number of Washington buildings that had hundreds of people in it, you know, and just, you know, destroyed and killed, you know, not millions, but multiple people on top of everything else, you know, and on top of all the people that were on the plane. And it's just so senseless. And so yeah, I mean, I worked the rest of the day. I listened to the radio. I mean, it was nonstop. People just, you know, calling into these shows and talking about what they were doing and when they started hearing this stuff and blah blah blah. And I worked the rest of the day, and I remember leaving work at the end of the day, and I had this little Honda Civic hatchback, and it got about 35 miles a gallon, and I had almost a full tank of gas. And I remember driving by this gas station, and the prices were hiked up to like $4.60 or 70 cents a gallon or some shit. And there was a line. I mean, like lines. I mean, and I remember looking at my gas tank going, fuck that. I got enough gas to last me a week or two. So I'm not gonna do this right now, you know. And just getting home, I remember watching President Bush on the news, or on the presidential address he gave when he spoke to the nation that night. My roommate got home and we talked about it, you know, and we ended up hanging up this American flag that we had procured through nefarious means, but nobody knew where we got it. But we hung it in the living room window, you know, and just prayed that it wouldn't happen again tomorrow, you know, that kind of deal. And just it's just sad, and it was traumatic. And a lot of kids, you know, nowadays, it's been 18 years, so I mean, that's a lifetime. I mean, that was my whole, you know, from the time I was born to graduating high school, you know. So there are kids that, you know, weren't even born, you know, when it happened, that are seniors in high school and stuff right now, you know. So, or starting college, you know. And it's just, it's crazy, because I remember everybody being more tolerant and more accepting of people, and the mood was a lot friendlier. And it just seems like that has gone a long time ago, and it's just people being selfish and petty, and just the traffic. People are like, fuck you, I got places to be, you know. You know, even if I don't, you know. And you know, if I cause an accident, you should have been looking, you know, kind of attitude. So anyway, that's kind of my experience of what my 9/11 day was like. And I mean, if you want to post what you were doing, or whether you were even alive, or you know, whatever, in the comments, I'd like to hear it. So anyway, never forget the first responders and the people that died in those horrific accidents, and all the people that have suffered since from all of the toxins and asbestos and everything. All those people that were trying to save lives that weren't able to be saved, you know, and the cleanup, and all those crews, and all those people that have cancer and things now from that. And just, you know, it's just sad, and I feel bad for them. So don't forget them. If you can donate to some charities, I don't have any specific ones in mind, but if you can donate to a 9/11 relief for the people that are still dealing with those issues, then thank you. And I'll sign off. Talk to you later, and we'll see you next vid.